environment. How do we keep our iconic Chesapeake Bay clean? The Appomattox River, the James River. How do we prevent toxins and stormwater runoff from running in?
Joe Morrissey told the constituents of Senate District 16 that he would focus on the environment and fight for the people. But was it a lie? When Morrissey was running for political office, he was given donations by individuals who destroy the environment and poison the people. On September 30th, 2019, he was given $1,000 from Rod Gudry of CFS and $1,000 from Meridian Waste's Mary O'Brien. But it gets more disturbing. Then, following his Election Day victory, Meridian Waste, CFS's parent company, contributed $5,000 to him on December 23, 2019. This should raise alarm bells. But wait, it gets worse. He partnered up with another corrupt politician here in the Commonwealth, Republican Bryce Reeves, in order to aid Meridian Waste here in Petersburg. But Joe, what about the people of Petersburg? The people of Petersburg and the surrounding communities and businesses have been suffering from the toxic environment created by the Petersburg Landfill. Studies have shown that living next to landfills increase the risks of adverse health effects, from low birth weights, birth defects, and certain types of cancers. Most human health problems come from the landfill gases, from its non-methanic, volatile organic compounds, and from hazardous air pollutants, in addition to several odorants which are released during landfill operations and uncontrolled emissions. Findings from Environmental International found that landfill gases can cause cancer from emission ratings lower than what are acceptable from the World Health Organization and the Environmental Protection Agency standards. Another study in Environmental Health Perspectives found that after a landfill had opened in Wales, United Kingdom, that congenital abnormalities increased in the population surrounding the landfill. The findings also found that chromosomal abnormalities increased after the opening of the landfills in Wales, United Kingdom. Another study from iOS Press in the Journal of Alzheimer's found that air pollution in urban settings, including landfill gases, can cause Alzheimer's disease in urban children and young adults. What I am trying to tell everyone is that it is very dangerous for our entire community and Commonwealth to be breathing in these toxic landfill gases and other emissions. We have to ensure that the landfill stays shut down for the health of our community and the future of our children. Joe Morrissey, during a committee meeting in Richmond, appeared to be in support of the landfill and claimed to have walked up and down and all around the landfill, and seemed to be advocating for the toxic waste site to operate in Petersburg. He also said he heard all about the landfill from residents when he was in Petersburg. Personally, I believe that money talks, and I did let Morrissey know about the landfill issues here in Petersburg, but those concerns must have fallen on deaf ears. On a hot, muggy summer's morning in Walnut Hill, I woke up in my bedroom choking and coughing from the strong landfill gases, and my windows were closed. My home is miles from the landfill. I can only imagine how hard it must be for the individuals in the community who live closer to the landfill and our children who attend public school right next to the landfill. But do our elected officials care? Morrissey, Mayor Perrin, and Howard Myers all have been hard at work advocating for the landfill and are actively trying to get the landfill reopened. While State Delegate La Charisse Aird issued a statement blasting Container First Services for its irresponsible and unethical actions, saying those issues have been recognized and addressed by the Department of Environmental Quality. Quote, their failure to maintain their landfill in accordance to Department of Environmental Quality standards placed an undue burden on the quality of life for my constituents living within the vicinity of the landfill, and it is clear that the revocation of their permit by the Commonwealth was a necessary outcome, Aird said in the statement. The revocation ensures the facility is no longer permitted to accept solid waste. My fellow residents of Petersburg, please reach out to your elected officials and let them know that you do not want that toxic waste site to reopen here in Petersburg and poison our community. Thank you. Here's a clip of what occurred in Richmond.
All right. Do you want to bring it back?
Killian's a yay, so it's 12-3. Okay, thank you, everybody. Who do we have next on the list? I have Senator DeSteff. Anybody got a DeSteff sighting? Oh, okay. All right, well, before we do that, Senator Reeves is back in the House. Okay. Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the committee's patience, letting me go proxy. Mr. Chairman, I have Senate Bill 769. Mr. Chairman, this bill was brought to my attention by a locality. It's not actually my locality. I think the locality is Senator Morrissey's, but I call this the DEQ Transparency, Stability, and Accountability Act. And what brought it about was, well, first I think we have a substitute, if I'm correct, right? Mr. Chairman, if we can move the substitute.
Okay, I got a motion, a second to move the substitute. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, substitute is adopted and in front of us. If you can describe the bill, Senator Reeves.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, what it does, the bill brings transparency, stability, and accountability to the DEQ decision-making. It also addresses, gives some teeth to anything or any time the agency gives its word in a consent agreement, that they keep their word to prevent the rules from being changed after companies have spent a lot of money investing millions of dollars based on those. It does, what the bill does, it allows all parties to know the actual basis of a DEQ decision, creates an actual record for court review of DEQ directors' decisions, requires actual evidence to be cited when decisions are made that directly affect localities that use landfills, and I have quite a few localities here to talk about that. It requires the director to take into account all the localities affected by his actions, not just a host location. And I also have former Attorney General Troy here to speak to the issue, but it does take, like if you look at line 24 on the substitute, in which it has lined out in the opinion of the director and changed that based on facts, not just an opinion. And so I think it brings some clarity, some transparency, and some accountability, especially in the legal process of it. And with that, I'd like to hear from our witnesses if we could.
Okay, do we have any witnesses in favor of Senate Bill 769? Mr. Tony Troy. Do you realize I was your summer associate 26 years ago?
I do.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm still waiting on my evaluation, by the way. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, very briefly, the way the current system works with DEQ, or in fact any administrative agency, if there's a dispute, you go to the agency. If there's a formal hearing, that's taken in front of a hearing officer. That is usually an independent attorney appointed off of a list provided by the Supreme Court of Virginia. That independent attorney hears all the evidence, expert witnesses, exhibits, and makes a, quote, decision, unquote. Decision, in fact, is a recommendation to the agency head. What this bill says is if the agency head rejects any of the recommendations made by the hearing officer, then he simply must articulate the facts and the reasons why he is rejecting the recommendation. Now, the problem you have here is when the agency head makes a decision and doesn't announce the reasons behind any rationale, and then it goes to the Circuit Court of the City of Richmond. Under our law, the Circuit Court is bound to give deference to the decision of the administrative agency head. In other words, the court, even if it would come up with a different conclusion, has to say in its mind, are there facts that support the agency head's decision, even if I, as a judge, would make a different ruling. So all this bill basically says is to DEQ, if you're going to make a decision, tell us why, so we understand whether we should appeal or not. And there's a lot at stake here because people go through these hearings. They're not inexpensive. you have attorneys, you have experts, and then to come up with a decision and have it rejected without any rationale, this says that practice should stop.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Senator Sanders.
Just a series of really quick questions.
Sure.
General Troy, does the DEQ director participate or even observe these formal hearings?
No, this is the hearing officer itself, and then the director is given the quote, what I call decision, unquote, to reject it, confirm it, or modify it.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Stanley.
So the hearing officer's recommendations are based on what? Witness testimony, evidence, whatever comes before the formal hearing, is that correct?
Expert witnesses, exhibits, argument of counsel. It's like a regular trial.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Stanley.
So then at the end, how much weight is given to the hearing officer's recommendation?
Well, by law, the administrator can simply reject the hearing officer's decision,
Even if he's not there?
even if he's not there. And right now, under the law, you don't know why he rejected the hearing officer's decision. This bill would change that.
Mr. Chairman, final question.
Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So from what you're telling me currently, what we have here under the code, I'm to understand, and I don't want to be accurate here, that the DEQ's director's decision is therefore entitled to some deference, even though he doesn't participate in this formal hearing. But the person, the hearing officer who participates in the formal hearing, is entitled to no deference in the final decision. Is that correct?
That's correct, and our courts are told to give, quote, due deference to the findings made by the director, even though he did not participate in the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Senator Morrissey.
Mr. Chairman, it may be helpful before we have any more testimony to give the backstory to this, as the folks have.
Yeah, I have a feeling that, I see a line of witnesses. Why don't we get to these witnesses, and then I think there's a story here we need to know, but.
Would you like me to share that first, or wait till we hear the witnesses?
Why don't we hear from the witnesses, and then we'll get to it. Are you all in support of the bill?
Yes.
Please come forward.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Senate Committee. I'm the former mayor and current councilman for the city of Petersburg, the host city. The Mayor Parham could not be here today. I'm here representing. He and I have attended several meetings with DEQ. The director refused to meet with us. We had to have the AG's office to intervene to allow a meeting with us, and we have been sidelined on several regards with respect to his decision to closing CFS. This came about after the mayor and I attended the hearing. There were witnesses giving great testimony and with respect to this, and then the lowest, I guess, denominator of environmental impacts took precedence over the major ones that they did not find. And so with respect to that, I have my staff, administrative staff here, as well as Dinwiddie County and Prince George to speak, and we stand solidly on our support for this bill moving forward. I do want to say that this impact would be a $3.1 million impact to the city. Petersburg, as you know, city of Petersburg went through its time, its financial, I get nervous sometimes, so I apologize.
Please.
But we did have our financial distress during the time when I was mayor. I got beat up a lot, yes. But at that time, CFS was a great business partner with us to keep us moving forward. And so was the state, I might add. But to have this decision come about just to close this particular facility, which is a great business in the city of Petersburg, will affect the citizens of Petersburg and will increase their tax base or their refuse cost.
All right.
Moving forward,
Thank you, sir. Before, I'm going to sort of go back and reverse a decision I made 2 minutes ago, which was erroneous. Senator Morrissey, can you give us a little bit of background? Because I think some people know what was going on here and some of us don't.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, there is a dump that's located entirely within the confines of the city of Petersburg. It accepts trash from Petersburg and continuous jurisdictions. In February of 2017, Meridian Waste purchased that landfill, and it continued to operate it. Thereafter, they invested approximately $7 million in the facility, including a transfer station. as they should do it. DEQ then inspected the premises over the next year, and on 5 different occasions sent letters to the landfill saying that there was no deficiency. Then all of a sudden there was a complaint filed by DEQ, and then a hearing was held. And that hearing was held in June of 2019. And this is where the problem that General Troy addressed. During the hearing, evidence was proffered by both sides. Witnesses testified. There was a hearing officer that listened to all the evidence and ruled in favor of the landfill.
Okay.
Then the decision went to the director of DEQ, who Senator Stanley said was not there, and it was reversed. It was reversed without a written findings of fact. And that is what this bill is attempting to address, that there at least be findings of fact by the head of DEQ.
Can I ask you a question, Senator Morrissey?
Certainly.
Has there been a legal action taken saying that that's an arbitrary and capricious action by the DEQ?
There has been a hearing held in Richmond Circuit Court, but because and I think I have this correct, because DEQ made that decision by the director, the judge, whether he was right or wrong, ruled in favor of DEQ. Let me just say this. As folks that have heard me on this panel before know, I'm almost 100% going to default in favor of the environment. But what's also important is due process.
Yes,
and it was troubling that there was apparent not only a lack of transparency here, but that there was a endeavor by the city of Petersburg and other jurisdictions to meet with DEQ and say, hey, tell us what the problem is, and that meeting never took place. And the last thing I'm going to say, and now that I've given you the back channel, is I think I might be the only panel member that has actually got out and walked that entire dump with his boots on, up and down Puddle Duck Road, climbed that dump, climbed down it, and it's entirely within my district. So I know a little bit about the dump other than just reading things.
You were door knocking?
While I was door knocking.
All right. Thank you, Senator. We have some other witnesses here. Please come forward. Please don't take too long. I think we're getting the gist of it.
I promise. Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Marie Grant, and I'm here representing Dinwiddie County. Dinwiddie County values transparency and supports the logic that if a decision is rendered, the why is included. Should the Tri-City Landfill close, waste trucks will be redirected through Dinwiddie County to the alternate site in Lunenburg County. This route takes trucks through US 460 and the Courthouse Road interchange, which is the most problematic intersection in Dinwiddie County. We've had several fatalities at that intersection, and VDOT is currently working on a strategy. The design is poor, and are working to address that. In addition to that, there's a concern about the litter that spills over from the trucks as they travel 460. We have already begun receiving complaints from citizens regarding the extra traffic. Further, if CFS Meridian Waste are required to transport their waste products further, they incur additional costs, which they will then in turn pass on to their customers, the localities, and then we will in turn have to pass it on to our taxpayers, and that's an unfair burden.
Great.
Just in closing, we appreciate the opportunity to have a voice and also to know the rationale behind decisions that will ultimately significantly impact our locality.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir. Very, very succinctly, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, fellow members. My name is Michael Purvis. I'm the Director of General Services for Prince George County. I come before you today to share our concerns about the projected avenue by which the actions are been asked to take at that city landfill. It is our opinion and our understanding that the deterioration of the roadways by the consecutive continuous running of vehicles to remove it and the continued waste that will be a result of those trucks will add to an already stressed infrastructure of keeping the roadways clear and an already stressed fee structure of repairing our roadways. So we ask that you consider an alternative to the plan that DEQ has laid out. And at this point, I'll answer any questions.
I don't think we have any questions, but thank you, sir. All right. Anybody else? Make it super quick. Thank you, sir.
I'm Donald Horner, Board of Supervisors of Prince George. I merely want to echo some of the comments made in respect of your time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Board Chair. Okay. I know there's an opposing point of view, and I see at least one person representing it, so, Mr. Paler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Yes, I might have a different view. This is not the place to litigate any decisions that the department made one way or the other, so I'm not going to get into that. I am going to take issue with the fact that the agency did not follow the hearing officer's recommendations. It's clear to us and to my attorneys that we did. And I'm going to take issue with the fact that that they didn't understand the basis. All of the basis was in the record. But as to this bill, the biggest concern is to not turn the Administrative Process Act on its head. If the decisions of the hearing officer are dispositive, then that takes any discretion away from the director or any subsequent judge that may hear that. And so I think as a just as a system issue, this is counter to the way that all of our processes have been done. So I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Senator Morrissey.
Mr. Paler, first of all, thank you for the good work that you do at DEQ, and I have been so many times, including my career in the House, on your side. I've actually read the report in June of 2019, and my understanding from reading it is that the hearing officer agreed that the landfill had operated correctly under the consent decree, and more importantly, he said that DEQ failed to meet its burden of proof requiring closure. Am I mistaken in what I read?
There were, and I don't remember the exact number, I can call some other folks up here. I don't think we should litigate this here, but there were 6 or 8 issues that were there, and the officer found in favor of the agency's issues on all but about 2 of those, and the other 2 were, so it is true that maybe one or 2 of the findings the hearing officer didn't substantiate. The rest of them, they did.
One final question.
Yes, final question, Senator Morrissey.
I actually went out there 4 times to the landfill and spent 2 or 3 hours each time, and I looked at the letters that were issued by DEQ. Is it not true that DEQ issued no deficiency letters in November 29th, 2017, December 22nd, 2017, May of 2017, June of 2017, and finally May 31st of 2018?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I don't have that information in front of me. What I do know is that all of the technical staff at DEQ supported this decision, and we rarely revoke permits.
Let me jump in here.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not a trial on what happened in Petersburg, okay? And so, Senator Morrissey, very skilled trial attorney. You're not on cross-examination, David, so we're fine. This is a bill that impacts every locality in the state, okay? So everybody make sure they understand that. Who else would like to testify on this bill? Okay, before we make a motion, I do have one amendment, and I'm looking at line 14. Okay, well, we have more, where it says presiding officer explicitly based. And I've been raised to hate adverbs more than anything else in life. I would like to take out the word explicitly and just say based on the evidence presented. If I can get a second to that.
Second.
All right. So I make that motion to strike the word explicitly. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, explicitly is out. Yes, sir. Senator Stanley.
I proposed an amendment, which I believe will be a friendly amendment. It creates a rebuttable presumption. I believe Dave Barry has it for you. Might give you a little, see if the page.
Okay, do you want to report that amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on line 14, after the word hearing, there'd be a new sentence that says, For any decision on review brought pursuant to section 2.2-4027, in which a hearing officer has made a recommendation to the department on a factual issue, a rebuttable presumption shall be created with respect to such facts, and the court shall give deference to such factual recommendations.
Okay, can I just ask before we vote on that, how's that different from the APA currently, Senator Stanley?
Mr. Chairman, I'd respond to your question by saying I think it's better laid out inside of that. While it may not differ, it certainly clears everything up, and there is not any question as to how much deference is given to the hearing examiner's findings.
Okay. All right, we've had a motion. Do I have a second? All right, this has to do with the rebuttal presumption of findings of fact. Senator Stan, you want to speak briefly to the motion since it's substantive?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, just very briefly, what we're trying to do is, I think, set out that, right now, from the questions that you heard me ask, it doesn't matter what happens and goes on with the hearing examiner or what those findings are. The director can just make a finding, from what I understand all of this to be, willy-nilly without any basis. In fact, I think what we're doing here is creating that work that was done at the trial level at the hearing examiner creates a rebuttable presumption of those factual findings and the determinations that are made. As we know in the law, a rebuttable presumption is that, rebuttable with facts itself.
Okay.
Question.
Senator Favola, have we voted on this amendment yet?
No.
No.
Okay, before we vote on the amendment, Senator Favola has a question.
Maybe one of the lawyers can address this, or maybe general counsel can, but can you please confirm for me that any administrative hearing process that would still exist as a result of this decision remains based on the information that we have before us?
Mr. Chairman, I'd answer the gentlelady by saying absolutely. Absolutely. It doesn't change the hearing structure. It's just after it occurs, and if there's another part of the process, that is given deference. That's the deference that has not been given in this case.
Right. Okay. Just for those of you that don't practice law, administrative proceedings are like any other trial. You got to put your evidence on before the hearing examiner. You can't bring up things afterwards. So. Okay, we have a motion. We have an amendment before us. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The bill has been amended. It's now before the committee.
I think, yeah, I will second that.
All right. I have a motion to report, and I have a second. Clerk, open the roll.
Yeas 15, nays
Pretty good on the dais, dude. I like that. Really short.
See, Reeves, we're not so tough.
Oh, I have my seatmate here.
All right. Senator Reeves, what do you got?
Mr. Chairman, I think we have one that came out here 7-7 the other day, so it's still in the body of the committee. And I'm not trying to beat up on DEQ. This was the bill that just was asking if we could take the 2-year inspection period for stormwater management ponds to 5 years to kind of